Hey everybody, welcome to the OBT show. I'm Chris.
And I'm Brendan. Now here's our top stories. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Hey everybody.
How's it going?
We had a big weekend, you and I.
It was a big weekend.
It was a solid. Well, we'll talk about one big event in our movie world that we enjoyed separately, because we don't have to always do things together.
No, we don't. We
don't have to hold each other's friggin' hands.
Oh, okay, all right.
We don't have to hold our hands.
I thought we were going to hold hands.
All right, well, we can hold our hands.
I thought we were just too drunk to find our hands.
No, that was Sunday. And then on this past weekend was WrestleMania 30, which was XXX Sexy Mania, Sexania. So
it would have been better if that was the title for it. After 30 years, we're changing the name to Sexmania.
Sexmania. Triple X. No, it was not called Sexmania. So we had two. So where would you like to start?
I think we should start with what we did first, and that is a movie of epic American proportions.
America.
Big slice and can of America. We saw Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Ooh, yeah, you saw it on opening night, right? Thursday night?
Yeah, I saw it Thursday night.
What was the crowd like there?
Packed.
Yeah.
Lots of people wearing their cap shirts, and a couple people had shields.
That's cool.
And it was good, too, because they had cops there, so it was nice.
You felt better?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't feel like there was any crazies?
No, I mean, I just looked around, and it was nerds. It was like nerd heaven.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it felt like a nice environment, and yeah, and I saw the movie.
I know.
Afterwards.
Well, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts?
Are we going to do a rundown?
Yeah, let's do a little. We'll do this. And by the way, spoilers all over the place at this point. So sorry.
Oh, yeah, no,
don't. If you haven't seen the movie yet, don't listen.
Tough titties. We've talked about this at length.
I know. Yeah. So if you have a problem, deal with it. Turn this one off. Come back later when you saw it. So go ahead. Spoilers alert on now.
Captain America dies. No. Okay. So my opinions on the movie. I thought it was probably the best execution that you're gonna get out of that story, where bringing back someone from the dead as AKA Bucky Barnes becoming the Winter Soldier. I think that they tied it into a lot of the political themes that are really important today, with privacy and the lack thereof.
Oh yeah.
And as far as action goes, it was like probably some of the well scripted scenes in the Marvel movies.
I would say, yeah, I would think let's go through from the beginning, because the beginning with the ship, because Captain America is called upon to take down some terrorists that take over this ship. That looked like Metal Gear Solid,
Frenchman,
the film movie. Bartok the Leaper.
Bartok, yes.
Played by George St. Pierre.
Which was awesome.
And they made him cool.
He made a lame character awesome.
Yeah, no, made a lame character like, okay, I get it. This is kind of cool. They didn't call him the Leaper at the end. They just called him Bartok. Cinematically, that was awesome. That was really well done. It was also a nice little really short turnaround on the callback to the intro scene of Captain America running around in a loop, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, he's training for what he's actually going to be doing. Get it?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, and that sort of sets the tone for a little bit of dissension among members of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America's thoughts about what America is and all this other fun stuff that was going on. Talk a little bit about that. What did you think when you first saw that?
I thought it was funny that he jumps off the plane, no parachute, splashes in the water, and then is climbing up the big chain.
Yeah,
like so cliche, but it didn't matter because
it was cool.
It was cool. Plus, he's got his big shield, draped over his back, so he's just like, all right,
I got it.
I got this, guys. As everyone is still floating down to the ship, he's on the ship. And it pretty much kicked ass. They said before this movie came out that they wanted him to study lots of different fight styles, so that way it could add something to the character, because he doesn't have any other superpowers other than being really, really, really strong.
Yep.
And the finesse allows him to be able to throw the shield and do cool things with
it. Most definitely.
Which they actually finally implemented properly. Like him, when he would throw it and would bounce off of things and he would catch it.
Yep. That was awesome.
In other movies, it was like, what, 1, maybe 2 bounces? And this was just like, he throws it, beats up somebody, bounces back, catches it, bop, 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 bop.
I thought that was done on purpose because it's almost like he's more comfortable now with his new shield.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
What was his exposure to it in the first movie? Very minimal.
Very minimal, and it was more like, and he had an old school style, like an actual shield before it became round. And then in the Avengers, he really was just
like
hurtling it at dudes, and then it would bounce back. So it wasn't anything creative.
Yeah, because the first movie was basic, like, World War II brawler. So he's just like, ha! Yeah! Forward punch. Yeah. And now he's, like, doing parkour moves.
I know, yeah.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. I liked it a lot. So, yeah, you and I are on the same page with that because it was a little disappointing the first time around with the shield. Loved the shield action in the second film.
Yes.
So then the story finally kicks in that there's some dissension in Shield. Shield might not be all that it's cracked up to be.
No.
Get it cracking the Shield? I made a pun. So there is further discussion. What did you think of Robert Redford? I actually liked him in it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Took the class level up like 50 notches.
Yeah.
It made Marvel classy.
I think it's a good point because I like this film because the tone is much more serious, but it's not treading into Dark Knight territory where it's like everything is grim and gritty and the world is a shithole. This is more like, let's be real about it. That line that Nick Fury says, "Shield sees the world as it is, not as we want it to be." It was sort of like, okay, this is getting a little more adult. If Iron Man is, and if you kind of consolidated all the stories, and Iron Man is a personal redemption of one man, Captain America seems to be building toward a redemption of a nation almost, or what is the American dream? That conversation of who is it really, the guy underneath the Star Spangled Banner costume? Like what is his journey? How does he represent a whole country? So I like that they were continuing that thread. Started a little bit in the first one when he needs to kind of embrace the role and he's not really comfortable with it at first. Mm-hmm. Now he's embraced it, but then what does it mean in current times, which has always been a classic theme in Captain America stories.
Yeah, it's very big on justice and the importance of right and wrong and that kind of stuff. That's why I've always liked Cap more than any of the other Marvel.
Yeah.
Like I was always like Batman and Cap are the two that I like to keep high on esteem. And this movie was trying to like push him to walking the moral gray line, and he was still kind of like, I'm Captain America, I can't do that.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and I think that was sort of what if handled properly is an endearing trait. When he's not written correctly, it's an annoying trait because he's too much of a schoolboy in some ways.
Exactly,
and they did a good job of making him not seem like a giant douche.
True, yeah, and plus on top of that, he's got the guy's little notebook of things that he needs to do, like the movies to watch. He had Star Wars crossed out and then Star Trek next to it.
Which is, and I don't know if you read this article, for each international release, they changed the notebook to things that were popular in that country, which I thought was kind of a nice little touch.
That's awesome to see stuff like that.
It's pretty cool.
That's Marvel going, thanks.
A little bit of nod. Thanks, India.
India or international viewers?
Or international viewer, I don't know. India was part of it in the article that I read.
Specifically,
India. Thanks, India. So the story continues, and then you see the Winter Soldier, which I loved. Every time the Winter Soldier was on screen, I was like, this is the most direct representation of a comic book, I feel like. In all, I mean, Iron Man is kind of, there's not much to mess up on that. I mean, that is very...
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man, they've morphed and changed so much. Winter Soldier, it looks like they went ripped him out of the comic and then threw it into your face,
which is awesome. Which I think that's a good point.
Amazing.
Which was amazing, and it worked really, really well. The bionic arm worked really well.
Yes,
and I liked how you didn't really need too much. They didn't do too much backstory on what is his arm made out of. You could automatically just assume you knew what it was.
Yeah, it wasn't important.
No,
you knew that he had some kind of serum injected into him to explain why he, could survive all this time when they would, do the quick freezes and wake him back up.
Yeah.
Which they didn't really explain.
No, but
they did. They said that they put him on ice, but they didn't really bring up like how they did it multiple times and
take him in and out, in and out. So.
And they did a lot of cool when they zapped his brain.
Yeah.
I feel like they did that purposefully to like knock out a lot of memories, so that would explain why he doesn't have any problems coming back and forth through time.
Yes, and I think that there's also and some of the stuff that, and I guess this is an argument that I have with my lady, because lady was not that impressed with the conceit, which my conceit is I know these things more because I've read the book, so I understand them, where her thought process, which I don't necessarily disagree with, is it would have been nice if they explained it a little bit better. Because I think that's part of the problem for me to view these, is I know what all that means and what is happening without an explanation. But if you don't really know what's happening, you're right. You're kind of like, okay, I can buy that he's been frozen and unfrozen, but I don't necessarily get it, or how does this work? And I remember the storyline. He was brainwashed, so there's certain KGB code words in his head that can wipe his memory or restart his memory, but that's not shown in the film.
Yep. I was leaning towards the I don't care.
Yeah, I know. At some point, you kind of can't. It was so awesome. I
was upset that they didn't really go over the Russian backstory, but I was okay because they had enough connections to where the story just kept moving and it was fine.
Did you think that Black Widow was an asset to that story, or sort of just extra?
Extra, because they didn't give the backstory. If they gave a little bit of backstory, she would have been more of an asset to the Winter Soldier mix.
I kind of didn't. In retrospect, I didn't. When I initially watched it, I didn't have a problem with it. But when I settled on it and I thought about the film, I was like, I kind of had a problem with it because I wasn't really. She doesn't do anything.
If they took 5 minutes away from the flirting back and forth between her and Cap and gave that to
Sharon Carter,
setting up a little bit with Winter Soldier, like a little backstory more, or Sharon Carter, who I didn't even think about it when I was watching it. Once they said her first name, I didn't think of. Yeah, I was like, oh shit!
Which I kind of feel like was a missed opportunity.
Missed big time.
Big time.
But they kind of saved themselves at the end of the movie by saying that she's still important and around.
Well, you could say the same. They did that for Maria Hill. They did that for. I mean, it didn't have a special importance, which she has a big importance in Captain America's life. So I think she got the same treatment that every other minor character did, and wasn't anything done to elevate her in a specific way.
Maybe Cap 3?
Probably Cap 3. I think I just was overall disappointed that you kind of have to just assume that there's a lot that they just said, okay, here it is, deal with it, and then we didn't move on. Like, why do they feel like Captain America needs to be protected? He's Captain America, and do a plan. And then, which I'm like, okay, I can buy it. Maybe they're just keeping tabs on him. But then there was really no mention of her and not even helping Captain America at all. She was relegated to that spy room. And she got some moments of action, which was kind of cool. But it would have been nice if she had a stronger presence, which, again, Black Widow would have been somebody I would have taken off that film and put her in and more of an emphasis. Maybe
I still would have kept Black Widow. I don't, because I love Scarlett Johansson.
I know you.
But I think that it's a missed opportunity because they did have good scenes for a minor character, but someone that has more important role.
Well, I think
should have a more important role.
I think I was fine with everything up until the point where Sharon Carter comes in to assist Captain America. At that point, if I was the director or if I was the writer, I would have stopped the Black Widow, her level of importance, and made Sharon Carter the woman who he sides with and goes with and hunts this stuff down with. Because that seems to be makes more sense in a way, because she was already on tabs with him in that moment, whereas Black Widow had to show up.
Well, this is where you have, like, what they do with
it's,
X-Men Days of Future Past. They're using Wolverine to send back in time because Wolverine's the established, and Black Widow isn't established. So they can, they can use the people that they've already got in the fluff, and most people will just be like, okay.
Probably. Yeah,
I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I didn't think about it until after the movie, and I was reading, like, the stuff you may have missed, and I was like, okay, I knew that. Shit, how did I not see that?
But so besides that part, then you also have with the story of Hydra, which I thought was really done well with Zola, and I love that Zola bit because that is how he is in the comics, and I'm like, that was another direct transfer, if we're using the same terminology we're using for Buffy, Bucky, not Buffy. Ha ha ha! Weeding on the mind.
Weeding is on the brain.
But a direct translate, because that's what Zola does. Except, and I was glad they didn't take it to that next level of him in a weird computer body,
big robot body,
right, which they may. You never know. But I thought that was really cool, and I like the idea that it was such a sneaky political commentary when you're seeing the montage that he does, which I found one review to be really funny. Like, this guy took the opportunity to make a montage just specifically in case Captain America ever shows up. It was like, all right, I guess he's got time. But that current themes in the world today about security and safety are being utilized to tell the story that Hydra learned that you can't take it from people, but they will gladly give it up if they just accept it. And I was like, that's awesome. I loved that part.
I agree. And one very important feature that we have not spoken on yet is the addition of
Falcon, which was awesome.
Oh my God,
he was so good.
They took a character, completely changed backstory, completely changed his uniform, and made it fucking awesome.
Yes,
like. I mean, even Anthony Mackie going into it was just like, I'm really excited about this. I wanted to do the original costume, and they were like, no, we got something better for you.
And they gave
so much better.
And they gave him some depth, which I was really appreciative of. That whole the VA thing that he was doing early on gave him like a kinship with Captain America, which I was like, awesome. They're establishing that they're comrades in arms, and how it was no question that he was jumping in with Captain America, so I liked it a lot.
And that's where you see the difference between Marvel and DC, where you have this dark aspect, but it more gives him a sense of purpose, and it doesn't really like expose any flaws in him.
Right.
It was just a bonding piece for him and Cap to be like, hey, we got something in common. Let's be friends.
Let's be friends.
That's awesome.
Be buddies. And
not like, let's brood together because despair and dead people.
Yeah. So that's what that feels like. Sorry, I have to do that.
Yeah, you have to.
Contractually obligated.
He's the Robin without the age gap.
Yes,
in the sense that
without the
Cap looks much younger than what he is,
and they act more like partners rather than in Batman Robin aspect of mentor mentees.
Yes.
So, and then the other big takeaway: a lot of screen time for Nick Fury, which I liked.
Excellent.
Further in his development, Colby Smulders makes an appearance as Maria Hill, which I thought she was good. I thought it was good.
Perfect.
It was perfect for what that character is.
Yes.
And then the big takeaway is Hydra is S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. has now officially dissolved.
Oh, no.
Which raises a lot of interesting questions, primarily for ABC's Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which needs to change its title.
Well, it is. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Uprising.
I know, but I think it's kind of silly. I'm kind of interested in watching it a little bit because I guess this week's episode that will air...
They're officially like...
They're bringing it up to speed. Yeah.
And I don't think anything else in the history of ever has been in continuity between movies and
and a TV show. I think it's the first time. You're right. It's the first time that something like this happened. So I'm somewhat curious. Not really.
I think it's going to be a big shakeup.
I think so, and I think if that makes it a season 2, that's them on the run, or as you said, what was you had a great point that they could go with.
What?
You were thinking that there was there's a comic book series, Secret Avengers.
I said that?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't think I said that.
You were drinking.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's entirely possible.
You definitely said to me on Sunday.
No, that was probably Travis.
No, I thought it was you.
No, it was Travis.
Maybe it was Travis.
Shout out to Travis.
Shout out to Travis. So, Secret Avengers, which is a series of superheroes in the comic books that are not officially designated to be Avengers. They're sort of, they just come in and they do their job and then they get out. So that's where this sort of morphs into. I think that'd be kind of cool, where they're on the run and they're the only ones left. That makes it a little bit more, it makes it less, what's the word I'm looking for? I've always felt like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. suffered from who they are associated with. If this was any other show, it would be cool. But because they're Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's in the Marvel universe and they made a big point of like, this happens in continuity with the movies.
Yes.
Why don't you just call Iron Man? Iron Man can clean this up in like 2 seconds. But if they fracture them where they don't have that ability to call out to anybody, then that makes the show more interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think like because it's up to what episode 16 is the one tonight, or the one that aired last. I don't know. I just know that most of the season it just gives you the sense of that they're big bullies as Shield.
Yes,
and these people in the show are much smaller cogs. In the machine, which is nice.
Yeah,
it gives you more personal aspect to it. But Shield is still big bullies. We come in, we take over, we do what we got to do.
Yeah.
And then this is going to be where they don't have the big backing anymore. They don't have the backing of the U.S. or the U.S. government. And I think that's what they're going to try and show with the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra and it's collapsing.
Right.
Yeah. That was a lot.
That was a lot.
I got the point across.
You got the point? Yeah.
All right. I did something right for once.
Yeah. No, you're good. So then the final scene, obviously Captain America wins, which I think the computer program, something else I want to mention, they keep referring to something in the film as Zola's algorithm that pinpoints potential threats to the government.
That sounds like
Ultron.
Dun, 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 dun.
Which I think is if they wanted it, and I'm pretty sure that they were thinking of this, is the backdoor origin so that when you pick up on Avengers 2, you don't have to do too much with it beyond say, oh my God, Zola's algorithm. Because it was defeated, quote unquote. But my point, and I mentioned this, I don't know if I mentioned it to you yet, but my point was, okay, great. They used SHIELD technology to take down a SHIELD program that was obviously a Hydra program. So what makes you think it's actually dead?
And like at the end, after the credits, they had Baron von Strucker that was saying, like, this is one of many things that are not on SHIELD's radar because it's been like divided off so that way
you can't find him.
You wouldn't know.
And that was also kind of a weird thing where Baron von Strucker did not seem that fazed by what happened. He's like, it's fine.
He's evil.
He's evil, but I was
he's an evil scientist madman.
But the weight of SHIELD that we were led to believe how much weight they had in the universe, I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't with a little bit more like, they took our best plan, but we've got more, like something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of the enemies in the Marvel movies have just been like, when something collapses, it's just like, well, that's what's going to happen. But I'm better because blah, 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 blah. And they're all very me's instead of, oh no, our plan got, you know what? I'm better than that. So.
Right. But we got
I can blow something up.
Whatever. But we got a peek that Hydra has Loki's stick from Avengers.
Oh, Loki's stick? That's where the scepter.
The scepter. Kevin Smith calls it Loki's hokey pokey stick.
It is a hokey pokey stick.
I touch you, you're bad. I was like, all right, fine. Their experiment. Then we also get a glimpse of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch,
which they're taking liberties with Scarlet Witch big time, and the characters, as a whole,
they're making them genetic experiments, not mutants, not born that way.
Now,
the impression is that they were created, not born, which is the big distinction, probably legally, between what Marvel can say and what.
Yes. Which is fine. That I can respect because of legal obligations or whatever. I don't like that they're not exploring the magic aspect.
Yeah.
Although they did mention Stephen Strange in
as a
the
threat,
movie,
which
as
I
a
thought
threat.
was awesome.
But I read something that was saying like the gem that's inside the scepter could be the mind gem.
Yes.
And that also will help tie into the rest of the Infinity Gems, because they said it was the gamma signature that radiated off of it was similar to the Tesseract, but not the same.
Right.
So whenever everybody kept asking me like, "Oh, the staff is powered by the Tesseract," I was like, I don't know, because they really didn't say flat out this is what it is. They went, "Oh, it's similar," because they're all kind of similar in a sense, because they're super powerful things that we don't have any understanding of.
Right.
So if that's the mind gem, and that's something that could also play into the creation of Ultron, like they take the algorithm and give it a conscience, like using the mind gem, like that would be something that
would be cool.
That'd be cool. I don't know if they're going to do it, but that's something that could happen and tie in with the Infinity Gauntlet and Avengers 3.
And we also have Guardians of the Galaxy that I'm sure
we're getting one.
We're getting one.
I'm pretty sure, because that's the one that he grabs in the trailer.
Yes.
Supposedly there's an Infinity Gem in there.
Oh, I'm sure we'll have some sort of end credits that bring us even closer to Age of Ultron 2. The only thing I was kind of like, all right.
Oh, they have to, because that's the last movie before Avengers.
Oh, yeah, no. Is it?
Yeah, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, then bam, Avengers 2.
Okay. I guess the only thing I was kind of bummed out about a little bit was sort of the implied crazy of Quicksilver and Wanda Maximoff. I was like, all right, not everybody has to be a lunatic.
Well, because they were villains at some, and
they were villains
in many continuities. They were villains.
But they were competent. They weren't looking like they were insane.
Yeah, but you gotta go with the sense that who knows how long they've been experimenting on them, and what happened to them while they're experimenting on them.
I'm just a little disappointed.
Because it's a sense that they're being created. That's where it gives me the something messed up might have happened, and then they have to kind of come to.
Okay.
Because I mean, look at what happened to Hawkeye in Avengers. When they knocked him out of it, he was tripping balls when he was strapped into the the gurney or whatever.
Oh, that's true.
And everything was all multiple colors and stuff, and he was just trying to shake out of it. I get the sense that whatever they're doing to him is not necessarily the best for the brain.
Okay, that's fair. I can go with that.
But who knows? They could say they splice genes and stuff when they were children. I don't know how they're going to do it.
So overall, you loved it?
Loved it.
I loved it too.
I say Avengers, Captain America 2, Thor 1 as the top three of the movies they've done.
I'm super stoked about Guardians. I think that's going to be a sneaky hit.
Oh yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Because everyone in the theater was like really excited after that trailer.
I sent the link to my dad, and my dad was like, "I really want to see this."
Yeah.
When somebody that doesn't, they're like, "Oh, I like the Marvel movies. Haha, this is fun." When someone's like, "I definitely want to see something like that," that automatically gives me the sense that they've got a hit. It's going to happen.
It's going to be awesome.
They're going to get all the people that are sitting on the fringe and all of the nerds that are like, "What's going to happen in Avengers 2?"
And then the final scene was Bucky still alive, which I thought was cool. I knew that was going to happen, and he goes to the museum and he looks at himself. Now it's kind of I wish it was the reverse where they did that scene first and then the Quicksilver one, the Maximoff reveal. That would have been a cooler setup, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But it was still kind of cool to see him kind of acknowledge who he is, which I think that was the point you're supposed to get. That he didn't understand what Captain America was talking about, and then now he gets it because he sees that it's him, and now he'll realize that he's a friend.
Yeah. And it's less dark than the comic version.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to fix you with the cosmic cube, but I'm going to leave all your memories behind.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
Sorry you murdered all those people. But we can be friends again.
They retconned that out, though. He remembered later on.
Oh, okay.
There was a safe word that the KGB installed for him to remember things.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
So they kind of messed with his head again too, where it opened it back up. So they didn't really.
Great.
Yeah. So like he knows everything, and he was on the run, and there's a trial of Captain America because the government got the KGB files. So it was a good storyline. God, we talked a lot.
I know, but Captain America is important.
Let's briefly talk about. Let's give 5 minutes to WrestleMania 30.
Important notes. One.
Taker.
Undertaker, 21-1.
Did you like that decision? No. Were you crying?
I would have been happy if he retired a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Knowing now that this was the loss that he was going to suffer to Brock Lesnar.
But I have to say, the promo that was cut by Heyman on Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania was awesome, and it really was pretty much boiled down to no one else could do it but this dude, and deal with it, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I liked it, but then there's no talk of whether or not he's coming back or what's going to happen. That's the only thing that's a bummer, but Paul Heyman can carry a feud for Brock Lesnar without him having to be at every show or at every pay-per-view. So I think it works in that way where my fantasy booking, if you will, is Daniel Bryan retains through SummerSlam and then either is defeated by Brock or goes over Brock. I would like him to go over Brock because that gives more weight to Daniel Bryan's championship reign. So if they're smart, they'll do that. And I bet Undertaker recognized that. And Undertaker, I have not heard any updated reports, but as
he went to the
recording, he had a severe concussion, was in the hospital overnight for examination, was released, but severe concussion coupled with a leg injury, too, he suffered. Yeah. But had no bearing on the outcome of the match. They made that very clear, too, that match was decided. And some of the articles I read said that he even picked Lesnar in 2010 as a guy to break his streak. I was like, all right, because I guess they have some sort of kinship that hasn't really been well documented. But since he started so young in 2002, I think Undertaker was sort of a mentor to him. So I think that's what he wanted. But
that's respect,
I think that's cool, but I just hope that they use it. You know what I mean? Because Lesnar, he didn't need another win. He didn't need that to be a WWE legend. In my mind, I think he's done enough. But it gives him the ability to then put over guys, which I hope is the long term. So guys that want a big win, they can say they took down the guy who beat the streak.
Yeah,
which I think is ultimately what they're going to go with.
Because he's a part-timer.
Right. So be it either future guys that haven't touched a championship like Bray Wyatt or Roman Reigns. I could see that happening, a Roman Reigns title match against Brock Lesnar if Lesnar holds on to it from SummerSlam on. Give Bryan a nice 4 or 5 month title reign. That could be something interesting. Bring him through August. And then you also have Money in the Bank, which also throws a bunch of different things in there too. See who comes out of that. Money in the Bank comes up soon, which is like 2 months Money in the Bank. So it'll be interesting to see. So that was one big storyline. And I think the other one was obviously Daniel Bryan winning, which was sort of scripted, but they did it well. I liked the match.
Yeah, it was the first match between him and Triple H was
awesome. It was a technical match, which is surprising because Triple H isn't really known as a technical wrestler.
No, I'm pretty sure. Like I remember through the haze saying, like, "Oh, Triple H can wrestle."
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And I think he always could, but like he never was with somebody like Bryan that could, I think, accentuate those type of moves. They always put him with I mean, Shawn Michaels can, but if he's doing Brock Lesnar matches and Undertaker matches, those are brawls more
those
than
big,
technical wrestling.
Dumb,
Yeah.
barreling around.
And then a lot of like big punches, and then let's stand around or lie on the mat for 30 seconds and stare. Yeah, this was like technical nonstop. They were in action,
and they look good doing it too. The facial expressions were just like, okay, that looks like it hurts.
Yeah,
legitimately looks painful.
And then Batista, Orton, Bryan was good. I like the Batista bomb into an RKO. That was awesome. I rewatched that yesterday.
It looked painful.
It looked painful, but it looked awesome too.
That was a botch?
I don't think it was a botch. I think the only thing that was
in the sense that he landed on the television.
Yeah, but I think it's really hard to. I mean, if they're going through a table, I think it's ultimately hard to figure out where every bit is.
If the momentum was straightforward, when Batista picked him up and started to throw him, he turned him to the right.
Yeah.
If he was going straight,
he would have been fine.
Everybody was going straight. Everybody would have been fine. But since it started to tilt over,
which I wasn't sure why they did that. Maybe they were thinking that he could go off to the left.
Yeah,
I think he went to the right when he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, like the whole thing kind of like swayed, and it was like somebody like breezed them out of the way.
I agree, man.
But I mean, yeah, it still looked really fucking brutal.
I know. So those are my two big takeaways. And then the night after Raw was awesome because they had Cesaro come out and officially break from Real Americans and become a Paul Heyman guy, which was really cool. So Paul Heyman came back. That gives Heyman, the character, somebody to work with while Brock's away, which is what they did last year with Curtis Axel. That didn't really go anywhere. I think
Cesaro's
better than that.
Yeah, he's got some pizzazz.
He's got some awesome technical skills.
Plus, he just body slammed. The giant. I guess that would be the third point. Yeah. Him body slamming.
Yep. Big Show. And major heel heat for Jack Swagger because they are doing the trophy presentation, and Swagger comes in and hits Cesaro in the back, and then smashes the trophy. It's hysterical, and it's like everyone's like no, because it's like kind of like that's messed up. But then when they come back, they do an impromptu match, and Heyman is clutching the golden Andre. That's the only thing like that didn't break and shatter. So it's so funny to have him like see him clutching it. But and then AJ Lee lost her championship to Paige and NXT. The NXT Divas champion.
Great.
I liked it, man. It was
amazing.
I love Paige.
Get rid of AJ Lee.
Yes. Paige.
Or use her as a secondary character.
But the thing that kills me is it's a valid point. They had 13 divas backstage currently on the roster. Didn't feel comfortable with any of them. Call up a girl that never was once on Raw. First match she wins, which is a great way to inject some much needed excitement into that divas division.
Because it wasn't a cat fight. It was a fight.
Yes, and they are both intense. AJ Lee and I think, give AJ Lee credit for kind of carrying that division despite what you think about her. She's the only one that can, for the most part, wrestle well. I mean, Naomi's up there. She's getting better, but she had to carry Naomi while she got better.
Yes.
And has charisma beyond just staring and looking pretty. Mm-hmm. Natalia has she's not that charismatic. She's got better technical skills than most of the girls, but I think Paige has the intensity, she's got the charisma, and she's got the moves that she's going to do really well, and I'm excited about it.
Hopefully make Divas more exciting than.
And it would be awesome if she retired the Divas title and took back the women's, but I don't think they'll ever do that because they have Total Divas now. If they didn't have the Total Divas show hanging over their head, I think I would be. I'd raise the percentage of them changing the title back to women's championship, which they should. I hate the Divas title because it looks so stupid.
Excuse me while I insert the microphone into my eye socket.
All right, dude, let's wrap this. This is a longer one. That's cool.
That's okay, but
we had a lot to talk about.
We had some points that we needed to discuss. I learned. I don't think I learned anything. I think I spoke the truth, and I received your truth equally.
I learned that you are so damn poetic. I'm Brendan.
I'm Chris.